Years after God departed, humanity finally understood what had been lost.
As darkness deepened, another sign appeared, one far more frightening than the first. A woman returning from the river claimed she had seen the sky move. At first, people dismissed her words, believing fear had clouded her eyes. But before midnight, others witnessed the same impossible sight. Slowly, almost too slowly to notice, the great sky seemed to be rising away from the earth. The distance was small, no higher than the height of a man's arm. Yet everyone could feel it. The closeness that had always existed between humanity and the heavens was beginning to fade. Panic spread through the village. Elders lit sacred fires and offered prayers. Farmers laid gifts of yam and grain before ancestral shrines. Mothers sang ancient songs to calm frightened children. But despite their efforts, the sky continued its silent ascent. Then, shortly before dawn, the oldest elder awoke from a dream so vivid that his body trembled. In the dream, he stood alone in a vast plain beneath a darkened sky. A voice, powerful as 1,000 storms, spoke from above. The earth has forgotten respect. The balance has been wounded. What rises now may never return. He awoke, drenched in sweat, his heart pounding like a drum of warning. He knew this was no ordinary dream. Somewhere beyond human sight, a great conflict had begun, and soon the people would discover who had challenged the will of God itself. When the first rays of sunlight touched the village, the oldest elder wasted no time. Leaning upon his carved staff, he gathered the elders beneath the sacred moon tree and revealed the warning he had received in his dream. The people listened in fearful silence as his voice trembled with urgency. Beyond the village, nature itself seemed to confirm his words. The forests groaned under invisible pressure. Strong winds swept through the farmlands without warning, flattening crops before vanishing moments later. Rivers that had flowed peacefully for generations began to swell and churn as though troubled by unseen spirits beneath their waters. Day after day, God continued to rise farther from the earth. What had once seemed close enough to touch now stood noticeably beyond reach. Fear spread across neighboring settlements, and messengers traveled dusty paths carrying stories of strange happenings. Some spoke of sacred shrines cracking without cause. Others claimed to hear voices carried by the wind at night. As confusion deepened, arguments erupted among the people. Many believed the growing distance between earth and sky was punishment for human pride. Others blamed wandering spirits, forgotten rituals, or broken promises made by ancestors long ago. Villages that had once lived in harmony began accusing one another of offending the sacred order. Suspicion grew, trust weakened. And while people argued among themselves, the heavens became darker with each passing sunset. Then, according to the oldest traditions, the true cause of the disturbance revealed itself. Among humanity lived a woman whose temper was as fierce as dry season fire. Every day she prepared food for her family using a long wooden pestle. Because God hung low above the earth in those days, the pestle often struck the underside of the sky whenever she pounded grain. At first, the blows seemed harmless, but the woman grew impatient and careless. Each strike landed harder than the last. Day after day, the sacred sky endured the repeated blows of human disrespect. Some elders warned her. "Be careful," they said. "The heavens are not merely above us, they are alive." Yet, she ignored their counsel. The pounding continued, joined by countless other acts of carelessness throughout the land. People scraped the sky with tools, threw smoke and ashes upward, and behaved as though the divine presence surrounding them demanded no honor. At last, the burden became too great. The trembling of the earth, the restless winds, the darkening clouds, these were signs of a struggle unfolding between human arrogance and sacred order. The conflict was not fought with spears or shields. It was a battle of respect, humility, and balance itself. And as the people finally began to understand their mistake, a brilliant light suddenly appeared in the heavens. The sky stopped rising. The winds fell silent. Every eye turned upward as a revelation unlike anything ever seen prepared to descend upon the world. The brilliant light hanging above the world grew brighter with every passing moment, until the entire land seemed bathed in a glow unlike sunlight or moonlight. It shimmered across the rivers, danced upon the leaves of the forest, and covered the faces of the people with awe and fear. No one dared speak. Hunters lowered their weapons. Mothers held their children close. Even the elders, whose wisdom guided generations, stood in silent wonder. Then the light opened like a great doorway in the heavens, and a voice flowed from above. It was neither the voice of a man nor the voice of a woman. It sounded like rushing rivers, roaring storms, whispering winds, and ancient drums beating together as one. The earth itself seemed to listen. The voice spoke not with anger alone, but with deep sorrow. It reminded the people that God had always been near, not merely to watch them, but to live among them as a constant reminder of harmony between the visible and invisible worlds. The closeness of the sky had been a sacred gift, yet many had mistaken that gift for ownership. They had forgotten gratitude. They had ignored wisdom. They had treated the presence of the divine as something ordinary. As the voice echoed across the land, tears filled the eyes of many villagers. For the first time, they truly understood the weight of their actions and the sacred balance they had broken. Then came the revelation that would shape the destiny of humanity forever. The voice declared that God would no longer remain so close to the earth. The sky would rise higher, creating a distance that could not easily be crossed by human hands. Not because the Creator wished to abandon the people, but because respect must be restored. The divine would still watch over the world, hear prayers, bless harvests, guide destinies, and protect future generations. But humanity would have to remember that sacred things are not meant to be taken for granted. As the voice faded, the great light began ascending into the heavens. Slowly, majestically, God rose higher and higher above the earth. The people watched with tears streaming down their faces. Some fell to their knees. Others lifted their hands toward the retreating sky. The woman whose careless pounding had become a symbol of humanity's disrespect wept bitterly, understanding at last what had been lost. Yet before the final glow disappeared, one last message drifted across the wind. Though I rise beyond your reach, I am never beyond your sight. Honor the balance, and my presence will remain with you always. The light vanished, silence returned. But as the people gazed upon the newly distant heavens, they realized that a new age had begun, an age that would test whether humanity had truly learned the lesson of God's departure. In the years that followed, the world settled into a new rhythm. The sky remained high above the earth, vast and untouchable, stretching beyond the reach of any hand, spear, or pestle. At first, the people mourned the closeness they had lost. Elders often sat beside evening fires and spoke of the ancient days when God hovered just above the villages, when prayers seemed to travel only a short distance before reaching the sacred realm. But sorrow slowly gave way to understanding. The people began to live differently. They approached the forests with respect, knowing that every tree carried the breath of creation. They treated rivers as gifts rather than possessions. They listened more carefully to the wisdom of their elders and taught their children that gratitude must never be forgotten. During planting seasons, families gathered to offer thanks before touching the soil. During harvests, songs of praise echoed across the farmlands. Beneath moonlit skies, storytellers passed the tale of God from generation to generation so that no one would forget why the heavens stood so far above the earth. And though the divine presence could no longer be touched, it could still be felt in the falling rain, in the strength of the winds, in the beauty of the stars, and in the quiet voice of conscience within every human heart. Thus, according to Tiv tradition, the great distance between earth and sky became more than a feature of the world. It became a lesson written across the heavens themselves. The people learned that blessings lose their meaning when they are treated carelessly. They learned that wisdom ignored eventually becomes suffering. Most importantly, they learned that true closeness to the divine does not come from physical distance, but from humility, respect, and right living. God had moved away, yet God had never truly left. The Creator remained present in every sunrise, every child born into the community, every act of kindness, and every moment when people chose harmony over pride. And so, whenever elders gathered beneath the stars, and children asked why the sky stood so high above the earth, they would smile and tell this ancient story. They would remind the young that the heavens once lived near, but humanity forgot the value of what it had been given. Then they would point toward the endless sky and say, "Look carefully. God is still there, watching, teaching, and waiting for us to remember." And the lesson would travel onward through the generations, as enduring as the rivers, as faithful as the moon, and as timeless as the sky itself. For what is honored remains a blessing, but what is taken for granted may one day rise beyond reach forever.